The Moschops. A tameable, rideable creature in Ark. Here's everything you need to know about the Moschops. In the wild, Moschops can be seen wandering around forest, plains, or beaches in every single Ark. They have a cowardly temperament, meaning they will not attack any creature, and if provoked, they will run away. There is a small chance, however, that a Moschops will try to attack you, but they must have been provoked and mate boosted. Be sure to keep note of this, as they are quite the heavy hitter. If you wish to kill a Moschops, perhaps for meat or hide, they are slightly tanky and mildly fast. The main problem with trying to kill a Moschops is not the actual Moschops itself, but rather it running away towards a more aggressive creature that will either kill it or you. The best way to kill a Moschops early game is to use a bola and either a spear, bow, or other tames you may have. A combination of both might be nice. Taming a Moschops can be quite annoying. Rather than the usual knockout method of taming, the Moschops requires the standard passive method of taming. Passive taming typically requires the player to put either general or specific food into their rightmost hotbar slot and then get near to the creature of interest and interact with them to increase taming. Once the creature is fed, the player must wait some interval before feeding it again. In the case of the Moschops, the player must do this process in accordance to the Moschops' desire. When the player gets near to the Moschops, text will appear giving the player information as to what the Moschops wants. The Moschops can request 7 different types of food, which I like to separate into 2 different categories. The first category I refer to as the easy clap foods. These are just the 2 types of berries it can want, those being Mayho and Tinto berries. These 2 foods seem to give the most amount of taming progress on the Moschops, which can be quite helpful as the berries are easy to obtain. Bushes spawn pretty much everywhere around the Moschops and everywhere the Moschops spawns. The second category is something I like to call the "this bitch about to get punched in the face" category. As the title states, the food makes you want to punch the Moschops in the face. Basically, these foods are really annoying to obtain, especially early game, and don't give as much taming as berries. These foods include cooked prime meat, raw prime fish meat, rare flowers, rare mushrooms, and giant bee honey. Typically, if a Moschops asks for one of these foods, I like to employ a mechanic that will reshuffle the Moschops' desire, punching it in the face. Once tamed, a Moschops is actually extremely useful. It is one of the few early game rideable tames that can harvest fiber, of which they harvest a lot of. They don't even need a saddle, further expanding their accessibility. Moschops can also help with harvesting narco berries, which will help with other tames you might want in the future. Another huge benefit to owning a Moschops is its melee capabilities. The Moschops is one of the strongest early game tames in the game. It is tanky and deals a really decent amount of damage. A mid-range Moschops can easily take down most raptors and carnos, and a high-level Moschops can even rival a Rex. I recommend leveling the Moschops in melee damage and health for offensive purposes, and weight and stamina for harvesting purposes. Moschops are actually one of the best early game harvesters and damage dealers in the game. With a heavy hit and decent health, they can harvest fiber and narco berries and are relatively painless to tame, and can be really useful to the player throughout the entire early game and even mid game. If you'd like to suggest a creature in Ark for me to cover next, feel free to request it in the comments. If you enjoyed this type of video or this style of content for Ark, consider subscribing and get notified for future videos. Thank you for watching, and hopefully, I'll see you next time.